Hi, yeah, I wanted to tell y'all about the Medusa incident. It's pretty interesting, in a horrific, sad, tragic way. But if you're going to continue listening to this, you're probably into that, like I am. Uh, yeah, so this took place in 1816 on a French frigate called the Medusa. It was going to a colony in Africa. Along the coast of Africa, on the way there, they hit some shallows due to poor piloting and really crap officers. Um, so yeah, here's a little bit of backstory that needs to be done. So the crew of the Medusa was made up of officers and non-officers. All of the officers were part of the new political party, which was in power, and were pretty aristocratic, and they were very much the bourgeois, uh, bourgeoisie. There we go, bourgeois. They were very much that, and they showed it, and they were very plain with it. And there was a lot of contention between the officers and the crew throughout the journey, because a lot of the crew were actually former resistance fighters against the current government in power. So there was a lot of bad blood, a lot of contention from the get-go on this journey. So when there's this piloting error and the ship comes aground, they make a decision because they're afraid that the ship's going to break up on this shallow ground. So the officers get a dinghy, like a ship, like a smaller survival ship, like a one of the longboats. They get one of the longboats, I do believe, and they tell the rest of the crew to construct this raft. And the raft was not seaworthy. It was a really rickety raft. Nobody on it was ever dry. It was always almost sinking. There was no walls. I'll be putting posters on pictures of what it looked like. It was not cool. And the original plan was that the officers would be in their raft, and they would pull. The officers would be in their longboat and would pull the Medusa into shore and save everybody. Well, that didn't last long. They started on their journey to shore, which was they could see shore. It was kind of close, within a couple miles. So they thought they could make it. Well, it didn't take too long until they cut the ropes. They cut the raft free. I can't remember the exact details of why, but pretty much the officers and the rest of the aristocratic folks wanted to get to land, and they felt that the raft was a danger to them, and also they were scared of the crew. They were rightfully scared of the crew because the crew was pissed, because it was strictly officer error that had gotten them to that spot. So they were pissed at the officers. And there was also a lot of still contention in the crew because not all of the officers and aristocrats and their families could get onto the little longboat. So some of them were on the raft. So, about this raft. They were stuck on this raft for 15 days. 147 human beings were stuck on this rickety, not seaworthy bits and pieces of wood strung together with a little bit of mast and some covering. it was not. It was horrific. It was horrific. The first night, a lot of people died. First night, there was panic in the ranks. Nobody could control anybody else. There weren't any officers. It was pretty much everyone for themselves. Some people were pushed off the raft. Yeah, they were purposely pushed off the raft to make more room for other people. It got really horrific for hours until finally there was some kind of semblance of calm where everybody kind of just separated into two groups on either side of the raft, and they just kind of tried to exist. But there was no water, there's no food, and there were a lot of dead bodies. So they started eating each other, and I don't think it was the type of thing like with the Donner Party or other instances where people were just like giving themselves up for the betterment of the group. I think people were killing and eating each other. When the raft was found, they saw like human flesh like on the ropes of the raft to dry. There were definitely corpses and different stages of decomposition, because it was in the middle of July next to Africa, and the Atlantic, and yeah, they were eating. They were partaking of each other's flesh. So after this, after 15 days, only 15 men survived. 15 out of 147. Yeah, it was not a good incident, because I mean the officers had all made it back to land, and they were all just like waiting in one of the fucking colonial strongholds, waiting for word about the rest of the crew. And yeah, it was the whole incident is horrific, and it just I think it's very, very relevant to kind of look at group dynamics, especially contentious group dynamics, and displays of power, displays of wealth, displays of power over others. I think that is it's definitely relevant these days. Yeah. Like I've said in a couple other videos, there's several reasons for cannibalism. One is survival, and this is definitely an instance of survival cannibalism, but it doesn't have the same nobility of, like, say, the Donner Party or the soccer game. Oh, sorry, the rugby team that was stranded in the Andes, and they had to eat each other to survive. That was like, those two instances kind of have a more noble yet tragic feel, whereas the Medusa incident, it just brutal, just awful, because there was no nobility there. There was no conversations of, I'm gonna give myself up for the better of the group. There was fear, there was anger, it was primal, it was brutal, and yeah, it just goes to show that, group dynamics are a thing, and it really does matter the people you're around and your situations, because if you don't trust people and shit starts to happen, they're gonna go for themselves. And you might be on the plate, so just know who you're talking with, who you're hanging out with, who you're going on adventures with. not saying your BBF, your BFF's gonna eat you at the first chance, but your boss might. I'm just saying, your boss might eat you. Your landlord might eat you. And they might not care. So, eat them first. Just kidding. But yeah, that is the Medusa incident. Thought experiments. It's good doing this one. Thank you for listening. Like, share, subscribe if you care to, if you've gotten to this point, and if you care to hear more weird instances of survival, not necessarily cannibalism, but yeah, that is definitely a little rabbit hole I like to dig into every once in a while. But yeah, have a good day. Thank you so much for your existence, and I'll see you next time.